Clara Morgan had always been different, even in a town that prided itself on independence and grit. From the moment she could read, she devoured books faster than anyone could imagine, soaking in knowledge that made her eyes sparkle with a fierce curiosity. Her father, a kind but traditional man, would often worry about her, whispering that the world wasn't ready for a woman like her. And he wasn't wrong. By the time Clara turned 21, the whispers outside her family home had turned into open warnings. 7 men, each influential in their own way in the dusty town of Redridge, had told her, some politely, some cruelly, that she was too much, too educated, too strong, too opinionated. But Clara had learned long ago that too much was just another way the world tried to cage people who refused to bow. It had begun with her work at the town library, a modest building with creaky floors and dusty shelves that smelled of old paper and ink. Clara had transformed it into a sanctuary of learning. She introduced reading circles for women, hosted debates about politics and philosophy, and even started teaching the children mathematics beyond what the small school offered. The men who controlled Redridge did not like it. They preferred women silent, polite, and decorative. But Clara refused to dim her light. When one of them, a wealthy ranch owner named Barrett, confronted her in the library one afternoon, he leaned on the counter with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Clara," he said, "you're far too clever for your own good. Perhaps you'd be happier sewing, or cooking rather, than trying to run the minds of others." Clara looked up, steady and unwavering. "I run nothing, Mr. Barrett," she replied, her voice soft yet cutting. "I merely offer knowledge. If that frightens you, perhaps it is your fear, not my ambition, that needs taming." That day word spread quickly. Barrett's warning, meant to intimidate, had only fueled her resolve. She began teaching late into the night, lighting the lamps in the library to guide anyone who dared to seek knowledge. And slowly people began to come. Young men who had been too timid to ask questions, women who had been silenced by tradition, and even the skeptical townsfolk, who had once mocked her, all found themselves drawn to Clara's passion and intelligence. Her reputation became a quiet storm, a growing ripple that unsettled the men who had once sought to diminish her. But Clara's strength wasn't only in her mind, it was in her heart. She had learned to read people as well as books, sensing intentions and fears that hid beneath polite words. She had a way of listening that disarmed arrogance, and when anger rose, she met it with a calm that unnerved those accustomed to shouting. And yet, despite her growing influence, danger lingered in the shadows. The 7 men who had declared her too much began to plot, not openly, but with the careful calculation of predators. Clara sensed it, the whispers of resentment, the veiled threats, the cold stares at the market or in the church pews. Still, she refused to retreat. Knowledge had given her courage, strength had given her resilience, and opinion had given her a voice that would not be silenced. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rugged hills surrounding Redridge, Clara stood at the library window, staring at the horizon with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. She felt the weight of eyes upon her, the tension of unspoken challenges, yet she also felt the undeniable thrill of defiance. She had always known that to be too much came with risks, but she had never feared them. For Clara, to be too much was to be alive in a world that wanted women invisible. That night, she made a silent promise. She would continue to shine, not for the approval of those who doubted her, but for the countless people whose lives could be transformed by knowledge, courage, and unwavering conviction. And somewhere in the shadows, she knew, her adversaries were already plotting their next move, unaware that their attempts to suppress her brilliance would only make it grow brighter. The tension in Redridge escalated in ways Clara could sense, but could not yet fully anticipate. One by one, the 7 men tried to undermine her, through subtle slights, through spreading rumors, and even through coercion disguised as concern. Yet each attempt only revealed their fear of a woman who refused to bend. Clara navigated their schemes with precision, using intellect and intuition alike. She never underestimated the power of patience, and she never allowed anger to dictate her actions. Every challenge became a lesson, every attempt to intimidate a stepping stone toward building resilience, and every doubter a chance to demonstrate that strength could be quiet yet unyielding. Then came the day that changed everything. The largest landowner in Redridge, a man named Hawthorne, confronted her in the town square, flanked by Barrett and the others. They demanded that Clara cease her lessons, shut the library, and step out of what they considered their world. A crowd had gathered, curious and tense. Clara's heart pounded, but she stood tall, her gaze meeting Hawthorne's without flinching. "I will not," she said, her voice clear and unwavering. "This town belongs to everyone, not just those who fear knowledge. To deny others learning is to deny progress, and progress will not wait for your comfort." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some in shock, some in admiration. Clara's words, sharp as the wind on the prairie, resonated beyond the immediate moment. The men, frustrated by her unshakable courage, attempted to provoke her, but Clara's calm deflected their intimidation like water over stone. And then, as if summoned by her defiance, townsfolk began to step forward. Women she had taught, men who had once dismissed her, children who had learned to love reading, all came together in silent solidarity. The 7 men realized, perhaps too late, that the power they had counted on, fear, control, dominance, was no match for knowledge, unity, and a spirit that refused to bow. Clara's library became a symbol, not just of education but of resistance, of the unyielding strength of those told they were too much for the world. By the time the sun set, the square was transformed. Clara, standing in the midst of supportive faces, finally allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. The 7 men, their arrogance shattered, withdrew into the shadows, their attempts at suppression failing spectacularly. Clara had not only defended herself, she had ignited a movement. A wave of courage and determination swept through Redridge, reminding everyone that no one could dictate the measure of a person's worth. Clara knew there would be more challenges ahead, but she was ready. Too educated, too strong, too opinionated? Perhaps, but she was also unstoppable. And as the crowd dispersed, Clara turned to the camera, her eyes fierce, her voice steady, and delivered a message that would inspire countless others. If you have been told you are too much, know this: you are exactly what the world needs. Stand tall, speak your truth, and never let anyone tell you to shrink, because in your strength lies the power to change everything. If you want more stories like mine, lessons of courage and resilience, make sure you subscribe, because we are just getting started.